Welcome to Good Morning Cranberry. Today, as host is James Mert, and our guest is Anne Neumann. Thank you for coming today to Good Morning Cranberry. You can watch this live this winter on our YouTube channel. More information about that will follow.
When and where were you born?
I was born in New York City in 1943, which makes me almost 76.
Where did you grow up?
Where did I grow up? In Princeton, New Jersey, where the university is.
Where did you go to grade school?
I went to Miss Fine's school, which people used to call Miss Refine because it was a very refined school. But then I also went to Nassau Street Elementary School, which was the public school in Princeton.
What was your childhood like?
Oh, my childhood was wonderful. I felt that I could go anywhere I wanted in Princeton. It was a little bit like living on Cranberry Island. It was a very small town when I was growing up, full of friendly people. And my brother and I had bikes and we rode them everywhere, just everywhere.
Did you enjoy school?
Yes, I did, very much so. And I had two favorite subjects when I was in school, mathematics and English. And because I lived in a university town, I knew that you could do English or you could do mathematics and earn a living. And I thought, well, I will do one and I will marry somebody who does the other. And I was in the middle of doing mathematics when I met my husband, who is a mathematician. And it happened by a series of chance events after I met him and married him that I decided to do English. So my childhood prediction came true.
What did you do for fun?
When I was a child? Well, my mother took us on picnics out of town a lot, into the countryside, and every so often we went to the movies. The first movie I ever saw in my life was called Ticket to Tomahawk, and it had the famous actress Marilyn Monroe in a very small part. And we loved it so much that when it came back to Princeton, we went and saw it again every time it came back.
How would your classmates remember you?
Oh, I think they'd remember me as smart, gorgeous, outgoing, and just outstanding in every way.
Do you have any favorite stories from your school?
No, I don't think I do. Well, I do actually. When I was in 5th grade, they offered a chance for children to earn money, to get a free lunch by helping with the dishes. And I raised my hand right away because I raised my hand for everything. And I wanted to get a free lunch. I thought that sounded like a wonderful way to help my parents, help myself. And I was given the job of drying the silverware, and I still remember to this day how you hold all the silverware in the towel in one hand and then you dry it with the other end of the towel with the other hand. But after I'd done that for a few weeks and had a wonderful time, my mother suggested to me that maybe I was missing recess and that I should give up the job. And it's one of the big regrets of my life that I listened to her. I think that what was happening was that there were poor children in the school and the job was really intended for them. But I think it was very good to have me in that job too, to show that anybody could do it and that it wasn't a shame. I was very proud of my job and I was always sorry that my mother persuaded me to give it up. But I think that was wise, so a child who really needed it could have it. So the tragedy of my life when I was 10.
Who influenced you in life and how?
I think my mother was a big influence on me. My Aunt Sylvia and my Uncle Tom were big influences on me too. And among my school teachers, Mrs. Stachini in English was somebody that I liked very much and admired. And then there was a math teacher called Mr. Cleary. And he had a book it was called How to Lie with Statistics. And I was very interested in mathematics already and thinking that lying with statistics was a terrible thing to do, but how interesting to find out how to do it. So.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a teacher, and I knew that it would either be math or English. So,
Tell me about how you got into your line of work.
well, I went to graduate school in mathematics and did some teaching in connection with that. But as I said, my husband was a mathematician, and we went to Germany and then to Denmark soon after we were married. And I was taking graduate math courses, but in Denmark, a course that I wanted to take wasn't taught in English, it was taught in Danish, and I didn't understand Danish. So I couldn't take the math course, and I decided to learn Danish instead. And I went to a language school and learned some Danish, and that got me thinking more about literature again. And when we got back to the United States, I tried something called mathematics education, how to train teachers to teach mathematics. I'd already been a math teacher by that time. And it wasn't so interesting to me, and I started taking graduate courses in English, and that's how I became an English professor.
Do you or did you like your job?
Did I like my job? Oh, I loved it. Yeah, I love teaching. I especially liked teaching English. I thought that was much more fulfilling in a way, because math is fabulous. Math is wonderful, fun, and it's very exciting. But you don't really get a chance to talk to students about their own concerns, their own issues, their own ambitions, the way you would in an English course, where you discuss literature and how characters are formed in literature, and then by extension you get to talk about what your students think about how their characters are being formed. So.
What lessons has your life taught you?
Let's move on to the next question. I think it's still teaching me lessons.
If you could do anything now, what would you do and why?
Well, I've always thought I would make a good architect, oddly enough. My mother was a painter, my father was a dealer in modern furniture, and I always thought I had a very good eye for design, and I might enjoy doing something like that, I think.
Do you plan to retire? And if retired?
Oh, I am already retired.
Oh.
And what I'm doing now is doing some writing.
How is the island different than it is today?
You mean from when I first started coming here?
Oh, yeah.
When I first started coming here, I came to visit my cousins, and I didn't stay for very long, so I really didn't get to know the island. I can't compare how it is today with what it was like when I first started coming here, but now I know a great deal more about it because I stay longer each summer. I typically come in early June and stay till the end of July, so I'm here for almost 2 months, and I feel I'm beginning to get to know it a little bit.
Where else have you lived this summer?
Oh, I've lived in Princeton, New Jersey, College Park, Maryland, Bonn, Germany, Columbus, Ohio, Aarhus, Denmark, Melbourne, Australia, Warwickshire, England. I've lived in a lot of different places.
Where's your favorite Cranberry Island walk?
Oh, my favorite Cranberry Island walk? I think the walk that I like most is the walk between I-95 and the shore.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Yeah.
What is your earliest Cranberry memory?
I think my earliest Cranberry memory is of watching my daughter when she was very young climbing a tree outside my cousin's house.
What is the funniest thing that has happened to you recently?
I don't think anything funny has happened to me recently. Nope, not a thing.
What are your hobbies?
Needlepoint I just started. Reading, I would say. Reading is my biggest hobby. I like to play the piano and sing. I like singing a lot. And, but really it's reading, I think.
Yeah, my mom likes being a play too. Do you have any pets?
No. My husband and I travel too much, so we don't feel we could manage a pet.
If you were to go give advice to your, if you were to give advice to any children on Island, what would it be?
Don't be too quick to decide what you want to do in life. Especially if you're going to college, try lots of courses in lots of different areas, because that's an age at which people fall in love with other people, but also with ideas and kind of career choices. And it's worth taking time to fall in love with many different things and see which one suits you best.
If you were to go back in time to your kid self, what would you tell her?
I'd say do things faster. I just gave you advice to do things slowly, but I think I would tell my kid self to make up her mind earlier about what she wanted to do.
Have you published a book?
Yes, I have. It's called Should You Read Shakespeare? And my answer is yes, you should. But there are lots of other things that are worth reading and watching on television. I have a chapter in my book about The Simpsons, and a chapter about a show called The X-Files, which you might not know about anymore. It was about an FBI agent who investigated paranormal phenomena.
Oh, I think I've heard.
Yeah, Mulder and Scully were the two heroes of that show.
Were you a professor?
I taught at Ohio State University and at Melbourne University in Australia.
What was the difference between those two?
Well, in Australia, not everybody takes a fourth year. Many people just go through 3 years of university. The fourth year is considered an honors year, and not everybody bothers to take it. But I would say the differences were not great except for that. I had very interesting students in both in the United States and in Australia. I think in the United States they were more diverse. Since I taught at a public university, students came from many different backgrounds, whereas in Australia, Melbourne University was one of the elite universities in the city of Melbourne, and by and large the kids that went there were upper middle class, I would say. So it was sort of the equivalent of an Ivy League school in the United States.
So can you tell us a little bit about Australia?
Oh, it's a very interesting place. I didn't want to go there, and I wanted to come back the whole time I was there, but I wouldn't have missed it for anything. It's a very different culture from here. I think that Australia, as you may know, is part of the British Commonwealth. They still regard the Queen as their head of state. And I think Americans notice how English Australians are, whereas English people probably think Australians are very American. So the culture is very interesting. The landscape is interesting. Some of it's very beautiful. I don't like eucalyptus trees very much. That's the dominant tree in Australia. So I was sort of homesick for American trees, but sometimes Australia can be very beautiful.
Did you see kangaroos a lot?
You know, you don't see kangaroos unless you live in the sort of place where if you were in America you would see deer. So they're very like deer. They come out in the morning to browse, and they come out in the late afternoon and evening to browse, and they're mostly in country areas. Of course, if you go to the zoos, you can see them. You do see a lot when you're in a country area, though. But I'd say it's equivalent to deer here.
When you were in Australia and in the United States, did you teach different subjects?
I did. In America, I would never have taught a course on African American literature because I'm not African American. But I did teach a course on African American literature in Australia because I'm American. something that I taught that you might not think of was South African anti-apartheid literature. Apartheid was just coming to an end when I started teaching South African literature, and I was very interested in literature that has a real message for readers. So in the case of anti-apartheid literature, it would be a political message, and I was very interested in that kind of literature, because it seems to me that if you write a novel that is trying to show somebody, let's say, the evils of apartheid, or another author that's a favorite of mine is Jane Austen, and she has a book called Pride and Prejudice. If you want to show somebody the evils of pride and prejudice, it must be because you've read books that influence you, so you think that books can influence people. And I liked reading authors who felt that books could influence people.
What was your favorite novel as a kid to read?
Oh, as a kid, gosh. I think I had so many favorites, but the big one was J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. That was just being published in America when I was a child. Somebody gave me the first of the 3 volumes of Lord of the Rings for a birthday present, and I waited and waited till the second volume came out, and I had birthday money, and I ordered the book from the bookstore, and they called me up when the second volume was published. And I went down to the bookstore with, with my $5 birthday money, and I bought the book. And I was so interested to know what happened that I sat down on the curb on the street to start reading the book, so I could see what happened to Frodo and Sam. Excuse me.
Well, it's pretty much all the questions. And I think.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Can you turn it off, or should
Oh,
we
yeah.
wait for?
I can.
That was fun, thank you very much.
Yep.